what we are going to do today, we've got some strong white bread flour here, and all we need to do to that is to add several products. So here I have got some black onion seeds. The black onion seed, I'm going to use about a teaspoon. Or let's go for a little bit more. I actually love these. They have a lovely taste. So that's going in there. We have got some yeast which I've already measured out, and I like to use this quick yeast, and the reason for that being is because you don't have to mix it with any water beforehand. You can just mix it straight in with the flour and mix it through, and it's fine. I have also got some salt going in there as well, about 5 grams. I'm going to add a little tiny bit of oil, about just over a teaspoon. Some baking powder again, about a teaspoon of that going in there. In fact, just under. And that will just help with the rise of this. Then, unusually, I'm going to add some yoghurt. Yoghurt is quite often used in naan breads, and I've got about 100 grams of yoghurt here. So that's going in. Then I'm going to add an egg to that as well. And I'm going to mix that up quite well with my hands, so I'm not particularly worried that I haven't mixed it well first. And then I have got some milk which I've slightly heated, and that just helps with mixing it through very, very well. So that's going in there as well. So the amount of liquid I've got in there is about 350 grams in total. That includes the yogurts. So the milk that I've used is probably about 250 grams. So just using one finger, I'm just going to mix up the egg first. And then I'm just going to mix that through so that I haven't got any liquid going all over the place on the table. And in a minute I will take my gloves off so that I can give it a good workout. So, working that in quite nicely. Just cleaning my hands. Get that all out onto the table. Make sure your table's nice and clean. And I'm going to get out as much out of my bowl as I possibly can. It's a bit windy here, so you can see that my flour is flying all over the place, but you've got to make do with the space and the environment you've got around you. Right, time for my glove to come off. I prefer working the flour, the dough with my hands, so I can actually feel what's happening to it. So they're coming off just for a second. There we go, move that out of the way. Okay, now the way I like to mix this dough up is I like to use one hand and keep my other hand fairly clean. Now this is quite a sticky, wet dough. It's much wetter than a normal bread dough that I would normally make. But you've just got to go with it and just got to knead it for about 10 minutes, ideally. So when you're working it, rather than just touching it and prodding it, really give it a good workout, because that's the only real way you're going to get it to really mix up. And I'm using the stickiness on my hands as well, to my advantage really, because you can see it's sticking to my hand, so I don't have to keep moving it around. And I want to use all of that flour that is around me. So, there we go. So how do you know when something like this is ready? Well, for a start, it will start to clean the area around you. Now I am using a vinyl tablecloth, so it's not going to work out quite the same as if you were to be on a steady work top. But first of all, your mixture will be lovely and smooth. It will feel like it starts to work against you. And you will have no inconsistencies of the dough either. it actually starts to feel tougher to work with, like a bit of elastic that it tries to work against you. And we've got a lovely day for it today. Glorious weather, the sun's even coming out for us. So, now I would normally be mixing this just a little bit longer. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop this back into my bowl. I'm just going to wash my hands and then move on to the next stage. But I'm going to leave this to rest for about an hour. Okay, so that's going into a bowl and I'm going to go off and wash my hands. Okay, so my dough has now risen for about an hour. All I've done here on the table is I've just put some olive oil rather than adding extra flour. Olive oil works quite nicely with this, and I'm just going to shape this into a sausage. And then I'm going to cut them into equal sized pieces. So having done that, and I always go from the half first, then in half again, and then in other halves, because that way I always know that I've got equal sized pieces of dough. And this is just absolutely great if you're looking for an easy lunch, maybe for the next day. Put in the kids' lunch boxes, or your husband needs to take it to work, or you want to take it to work yourself, or it's just great. So cut these out, and I'm just going to flatten them, and I'd like them quite circular if I can, and I don't want them too thin, so they're going to be shaped similar to that. Then I've already got a curry sauce which I've made. I happen to have made a jalfrezi yesterday, and I'm going to use that, and it's absolutely lovely. It will have had time to marinate overnight as well and develop its flavours, so it's going to be terrific. So just flattening these out. They don't have to look perfect, but you just want to make sure they're not going to be too thin. Even if the mixture does split and the mixture comes out, it does add to the feature of them. But I really want these as a field bread. Okay, nearly there. I've got about 8 of them. And then you only need a very small amount of filling, and that is the beauty of this. So if you've just got like one portion left over and it's not quite enough to feed your family, save it anyway, and then just use it to fill these up. Because even when you've made these rolls and you've cooked them, they can easily go into the freezer, and they don't need long to defrost either. Maybe room temperature, maybe half an hour to an hour, and then they can just be taken to school in the school lunchbox, for example. Anyway, here comes the sauce. So this is a jalfrezi I made earlier, and all I'm going to be using is about a tablespoon per roll, which is more than enough. So that's just going into the centre, just like that. So whichever curry you wish, it doesn't matter. And like I said earlier, even if you've got like a pasta sauce, just make a pizza dough or something similar, or your favourite bread dough, and it's going to be delicious. All I'm going to be doing with this, I'm going to be folding them to the centre, but you can fold them like a naan bread, and I'll show you some of those as well, or more like a pasty. So that is done like that. I'm getting a oven tray which I prepared earlier, and I'm just going to simply turn these rolls upside down, and that's all that needs doing to them. So again, just coming to the centre, there we go, quite easy. Maybe a bit fiddly if you're not quite used to it, but you just sort of seal it together with your fingers, turn it upside down like that. And then just to show you what you can do if you wanted to do it more like a pastry, you just fold it over, and then you've got to make sure that you seal it around the edges. So I'm just pressing that down. Although some of the juices are coming out, that's not a problem, but you just got to make sure that that's sealed in. And again, that looks quite nice as well, and that's also quite a nice way of eating it. So I should do that one with that as well. So just sealing that down like that. These are going to taste amazing, ladies and gentlemen, when you come back a bit later when they're cooked. Going on there. Oh, this one's got a shape. This one has to be folded like that, I should think. There we go. This one's going to the center again, just like that. And I'm not being particularly soft-handed with them. I'm quite heavy-handed because this particular dough is quite thick. So that's those ones done. Just the last two to put onto this tray. There we go. Oh, that's my greaseproof paper flying away. I'll have to do without. There we go. Twist that upside down. And that one just... There we go. Done. So that's what they look like. And then when they're cooked, because obviously they've got to go and be proved for about 20 minutes, when they're cooked, they look like this. Hey, I bet you're all dying to try some, aren't you? I'm going to cut these up in a minute for you all to have a little taste, but they are terrific and so easy to do, wouldn't you agree? And that's that. Enjoy.